So I've been pretty run down since the middle of last week, and I'm beginning to get over it. You could probably still hear it in my voice. But I'll look into. I'm quite analytical in terms of how I do things. I look at certain things as well. And one of the things we've spoken about, and I've actually mentioned it in this title, is adrenaline and running on adrenaline all the time. Now it's easy for a lot of people to say you could run on adrenaline forever, but it's not. Adrenaline is really a short term, rapid response survival system that gets you through critical events. This goes back to caveman days, which is flight or fight response. It's the typical example of caveman days. Two guys, girls, whatever you want, sitting in the bush, eyeing up this goat basically to kill it. I'm going to get that goat, all the rest of it. They hear a crack at the side of them, a crack in the twigs and that, and then all of a sudden a T-Rex comes down and grabs one of them and kills them. The other one runs off into the wind, into the horizon, and never comes back. But that's flight or fight response, because what happens the next time out of that is same thing happens again. The person that ran away hears that crack and goes, wait a minute, I've heard that before. And then immediately assumes that that's what's going to happen next, that the T-Rex is going to come down and get that person. So that's called flight or fight response. And that's when adrenaline kicks in as a result. And that's what it's needed for. I'm not going to say a T-Rex is going to obviously get you, but that's what flight or fight is. And that's why adrenaline is used. Now, the key here is when we run out of adrenaline, we switch to cortisol. Now, that's a stress chemical that actually allows us to survive. Cortisol brings with it irritation, short tempers, and inability to cope in the current situation. If your energy management isn't on form at all, chances are you'll be completely depleted, relying on short-term emergency fuels all the time. Now, for some people, that could be years and years without realizing it. And I always say, you make sure that you just work towards, find out your peak performance, okay? Find out where you work and peak all the time. What to do is work just below that peak every single time and make sure you're just below that line. And then when you need to do something outstanding, you jump up and you just go and do it and you come back down. That's when adrenaline kicks in as a result of that. And then you come back down. That keeps you centered, that keeps you balanced, that keeps up here right. So it's time to change and get back in control. Easier said than done. Most people will be saying that about me, by the way. So here's what you should be doing for sustainable energy management. Nutrition, exercise, and sleep. 3 key things you need to be doing. What we eat, how we move, how we rest will determine the quality of our performance overall. To perform at the highest levels, you need to protect your asset. You know who the asset is? It's you. It's your body. It's your mind. It's all these different things. So get serious about your body and what it needs itself. Here's 2 classic examples in the past that I've suffered as a result. First one is I trained far too much. I went overboard. I was training 11 times a week. Yes, 11 times a week. I was training. And I eventually ended up with bone swellitions and real serious problems in my core. I had to go for a more or less an MRI to find out what was happening down there in my core. And it transpired it was all bone swellitions and that. And then I ended up having to get a cortisone injection to actually help it. But literally because of that, I was out completely for a whole year. I wasn't able to train. I wasn't able to do anything physically fit. And it really got me up here because I wasn't able to do that. It actually gave me the realization as well that, could you imagine if you could never ever run ever again? Could you imagine if you could never ever swim ever again? That's quite a daunting, frightening thing to actually understand. But at that point, I was literally at the point where I possibly could never run again. And for me, running was everything. And so was cycling, and so was swimming. Even swimming was difficult to do, so I ended up having to pull out of that with the triathlon club because I was training all the time with them. And we thought that swimming would be okay, but it just wouldn't. I'd just overdone it completely. Absolutely right, Angela. Yeah, flight or fight response. Yeah. Okay, so nutrition. The other one actually that happened to me as well was recently. Well, it was probably just over all these periods of times of running, constantly pounding pavements, not having the right footwear, not looking after my body. My knees were getting constantly compounded and pounded and all the single time. And I had no idea what was happening. And after a period of time, I ended up having to go to a physio because my knee was in complete aggravation. And what it was the cartilage had actually peeled off the side of the knuckle. So it peeled off and curled underneath, and it was actually rubbing an abrasion. So what we had to do is I had to then go and then out of action again. I couldn't run, and that was for about 6 months until I got my operation. COVID came in, and eventually I was able to get in the door and get my operation. So they shaved the side, they polished the front of the knee joint itself, and now I'm fine. But I still had to do rehabilitation to get back in. So that's the key here. Remember to look after your body, your mind. That's the two most important things to you. If you don't have that, you've not got anything. Remember, everything else falls into place as a result of healthy body and healthy mind. So that takes one to the next one of deep breathing. Cold water baths. Yeah, boy. And saunas. Hey, that sounds a bit better, eh? Cold water baths, saunas. More optimistic about saunas. This is amazing when you think about it, and a lot of people will know Wim Hof. If you don't, Google him. So cold and heat can do amazing things for recovery. Breathing in and out using the Wim Hof method brings rapid resilience. Cold water therapies actually relaxes the body and brings you back into presence. It also, cold water therapies actually release a lot of toxins which are actually stored up in muscles you've never used in years, because what happens is when you hit that cold straight away, all these muscles contract and then you come out and they relax again and it releases all these toxins. These are muscles that you've never had to use before because you've always been so used to doing a certain thing all the time, every time. And saunas will also allow these toxins to escape through your muscles as well, because you'll begin to relax at the same process. That's why a lot of people do sauna and then they plunge straight into freezing cold water, because then it's that overall zing that you get from that, and the overall toxins that get released from your body as a result of that. Final one here is probably, again, this is people will be going, wait a minute, you didn't do that yourself. But I do work on this every single day. It's a real challenge for me to actually do this because I am completely focused on the dream, on what I want to achieve as a result. So I tend to think the more I keep going and going and going and going and going, the easier I'll get and the quicker I'll get to it. But you have to come back to it. And if you've not seen it before, look up on my YouTube channel or look up Jim Parker. Take time out to sharpen your axe. There'll be a vlog somewhere talk about taking time out to sharpen your axe and how important it is, and how if you don't do that, you'll end up wearing yourself down, so you'll become less productive as a result. So the next one is calendars, gratitude, and attitude. If it's not in a calendar, it actually doesn't happen. This keeps you focused. Set boundaries so you can perform at your best. Have a clear start and finish time in the process as well. When you know when to switch out as well, understand yourself, understand when you're hitting that, you've got the adrenaline, but understand also when the cortisone is or the cortisol is actually coming in at the back of that, because that's when you really have to back off. So write a list of all the things that are going great for you just now. Then have a list of what matters and what motivates you as well. Focus on these two lists and only do what's on these two lists as a result. So focus on the two lists, which is what matters to you and also what motivates you. So that's the two lists you focus on, and you make sure you put things in your calendar as a result, because what gets scheduled gets done. That's the most important thing. And that's it, guys. That's me. That's it for tonight. If you enjoyed that, please feel free to message or comment or whatever you want to do. But I kind of thought I would share my today's findings or my today's thoughts with you on how this has happened. Okay, bye-bye for now.